This is just more evidence of God's judgment on this country to have now an absolute lawless president who's out there basically, I've pointed out time and time again, and this has nothing to do with Republican. This is a president that is acting in a lawless fashion that is absolutely destroying, blurring the boundaries of the separation of powers between the three co-equal branches. And this is how a government can melt down quickly. And again, listen to me. This has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. This is about God's judgment on this nation. Why would God be allowed? And I told people back in 2008, if God allowed Barack Obama to become president, it would be further into this judgment on this nation. And why do I say that? Not because of his political ideology. I said it from two standpoints. From a spiritual standpoint, I told people he'd be the most pro-death president in the history of this nation, and he has been, a staunch supporter of the slaughter of babies, not just here, but using U.S. tax dollars worldwide to slaughter babies. He's been a staunch defender of the perversion of God's holy institution of marriage, a staunch advocate for the radical homosexual agenda in this country, and he's been an absolute friend of Islam like they could have never dreamed of. And I'm not saying he's a closet Muslim, take that nonsense somewhere else. I'm just telling you based on the facts. He has been the most anti-Israel president that we've had ever in this nation. So from a spiritual standpoint, he has opposed God on every major spiritual turn of the wheel. But in addition to that, I made the case that this would be a furtherance of God's judgment because they are putting somebody into the executive position to run this country who had never run an ice cream stand in his life. This man never started a business. He never made a payroll. He has never held a job in the private sector other than a very short time at some law firm. He has no clue. He's never accomplished anything in his life. What has he accomplished? Oh, he went to Harvard Law School. Great. Why has he spent millions of dollars to hide all of his law school records, his writings as the first black president of the Harvard Law Review? If that was such an accomplishment, why can't anybody see what he wrote? What has he accomplished? Great, he's a community organizer in Chicago. I know, I was there when he was there. I started my ministry about the same time he was there. I know. Taught a couple classes at Chicago, at the University of Chicago as a constitutional lawyer. Yeah, here's a guy who shredded the Constitution over these last 5-6 years. It didn't take a genius to figure out a man who had never governed before. What was his political career? What was it? State Senator of Illinois. Remember how he got elected? Remember how he got elected in Illinois? I do. It was one of the most blatant Chicago-style elections ever. We just destroyed that poor woman's character and got elected. And then he went to the Chicago State House, and what did he do? Voted president. Every time. Not yes, not no, president. The only thing he ever voted for was to support late-term abortions up to the very moment the baby's conceived. He was all for that. Then what happened? Then he went for the U.S. Senate. How did he get elected? Remember that? I can't remember the guy's name. He and his wife, I think his wife was an actress, bad divorce paper sealed, and all of a sudden, those divorce papers about a month before the election, sealed, got leaked to the press. Kinky sex, blah, blah, blah. The guy resigns. They had to who'd they throw in? Alan Keyes, about 2 weeks before the election? Did nothing as a senator in the U.S. Senate. Really, in all honesty, he wasn't even there a year and he was running for president. So the guy had no legislative accomplishment. had no business career, no business accomplished, never ran anything. He'd never ran an organization before. What in God's name made anybody think that this man could run a country? And it's shown. You know, as bad as a record historically as Jimmy Carter's presidency proved to be, at least the man was the governor of a state. He at least had governing experience, executive experience. Let's go back. Who we had? Before that, you have Bush, two-time governor of Texas, had several business operations that he was involved in. At least he understood how a business worked. Okay? Who's before that? Clinton. Say what you want about Bill Clinton, but two-time governor of Arkansas. Okay, at least he had governing experience. Who was that before that? Bush's father. Left the family banking business in Boston, went to Texas, started his own business in the oil field, very successful, ran businesses, made millions of dollars in business, understood how it worked, long time political career, state congressman. He was involved, head the CIA, tons of experience. 8 years, the VP for Ronald Reagan. I mean, this man knew how to run things. Reagan before that, called him an actor. Well, he's also the governor of California before that. Governing experience. Carter before that, historically may not have been that great a record, but at least he was the governor of a state, Georgia. And you just go back and back and back, and you've got people who either had long records of governance accomplishments or, in some cases, and business careers, successful. Obama had nothing. I don't know why anybody thought this guy was going to be able to run the country. And it's proven over time, and this has got nothing to do with his political ideology or, it's not political. And I said at the time this was going to be a furtherance of God's judgment. And we now have the highest rate of a workforce, a dropout rate of the workforce than ever in the history of this country. More people are not working right now than ever before in history. This is the first black president. Black unemployment has gone up at least five points since he's been president. Poverty in the black communities has increased under his watch. He talks about income inequality. He's taken more money from Wall Street bankers than any president in the history of this nation, not to mention his Hollywood friends. The guy knows how to do one thing: campaign and raise money. There you go.